What is going on, guys? Casual Spanking over here, and today I have for you another viewer recommended loadout, this time suggested by Floodgate98x, and he's telling me, hey Casual, I have an interesting loadout for you. Engineer class, M4 with M145 optic, vertical grip, heavy barrel, and laser sight. Any launcher and or equipment of your choice. Play on Gauntlet Railroad, any large game mode. It's a pretty unconventional setup, so it would be interesting to see if you could make it work or not. Now, from the very moment I set eyes on this, I myself told myself, you know, I'm going to try this, but I'm most likely going to fail. And I was partially right. I am not a very skilled gamer, guys. That's kind of why the channel's name is Casual Spanking. It's not because I'm casually spanking people, although that does happen on some odd occasions. Most of the time I'm casually getting spanked by, players better than myself. Although that's not to say that's a bad thing, depending what kind of, spanking you're looking for. But back to the weapon itself, guys. The reason why this is a bit of an unconventional setup, and I'll kind of try to break it down per attachment and the weapon itself, is due to the fact that the M4 is a burst fire weapon with a very high initial recoil, and it's better suited for closer to medium range encounters. Now, some of you might disagree with me, and I can see your reasoning behind that, but let me, explain myself. The M4's initial recoil makes it very difficult to control at distance, especially if you're using optics which are amplified like the M145, which I believe is a 3.4 time optic. Now, the thing with recoil, guys, is if you're aiming down sights and you've got one time, optics, or you've got no optics at all, so you're basically seeing dead on what your eyes would normally see, the recoil appears minimal and therefore is far easier to control because you have less movement on your screen and therefore less movement that you have to correct for with your mouse or your joystick. And this is a good thing. It basically makes the weapon ideal to use, especially in hardcore modes, because those burst fire is very accurate. Now, what he's done here with the M145 optic is amplified what the recoil would appear to be on the screen. So you'll be making more corrections with your mouse or your joystick. Therefore, you're more likely to hurt your own aim than the recoil would. And at the same time, he went ahead and threw in the vertical grip and the heavy barrel. Now what this does, guys, is basically they counteract each other. The vertical grip counteracts the initial recoil of the weapon, whilst the heavy barrel increases it. So basically he's negated any possible benefit any of these attachments would have, except for the fact that he did give us increased accuracy round for round. That's what the heavy barrel does. It increases your muzzle velocity slightly and therefore decreases bullet drop over distance, which is nice to have, especially if you're firing single rounds or even if you're going fully automatic over distance, because you can then just walk your rounds onto target and each round will be more and more accurate. Now, the downside to doing this with the M4, guys, is that over distance, again, we already mentioned the amplified recoil effect, and the muzzle velocity on its own is not very high, so you guys will see the bullet drop is quite significant, and that's why I decided to stick to using this weapon to slightly closer ranges. Now, even with the M145 optics, the fact that we have a laser sight on there is quite beneficial, because although the hip fire in this weapon is not ideal, it does allow us to spam out quite a few rounds at a time. Now, this weapon itself kept losing out to just about any other weapon in the game. It lost out to a shotgun that was about, 300 meters away, and you guys will see this in a clip. I will put it in there for sure, and I will highlight it and be like, what? But it happened, and it's to be, Anyways, aside from all that, guys, we did get a laser sight, which is nice because that gives us a bit of an edge in close range encounters, which is not to say much when it regards the M4, because the M4 is a burst fire weapon it's got a decent rate of fire, don't get me wrong. 800 rounds per minute is absolutely awesome. The fact that it's a burst fire, though, will basically determine how well you do. Every time you pull the trigger, you'll be increasing your recoil even more. So first of all, while you're hip firing, you'll be increasing your recoil, spreading those crosshairs, then they'll shrink rapidly, and then you'll spread them even more widely the second time you fire a burst. This will basically have you losing out to just about any other weapon that's fully automatic, such as the AK, the MTAR, or any weapon rather with a higher rate of fire than the M4. The fact that it's a burst fire also has you relying on how quickly you can press that mouse and how well you can time the interval between each burst. So if you can time it perfectly, so as soon as the third round of the first burst is fired and you can click the mouse at the same interval that each round is fired from the barrel, then that's absolutely fine. You're basically firing fully automatic mode right there. But most of us can't do that, so there will be a slight interval between each burst that we fire, giving our enemy the advantage to put maybe 1, 2, or even 3 rounds down range towards us that we could have basically put down range towards them. So it doesn't matter if you get the drop on your target, odds are you have a 50-50 chance of losing unless your enemy has already been hurt, as you guys will see it happens to me plenty of times here. Now guys, as I mentioned before, the M145 optic amplifies your perceived recoil over distance. That's why I stuck to using it more towards closer ranges, and even there you are not guaranteed to win out due to the fact that basically if your target is moving, it'll be harder for you to track your target. It is great for stationary targets because all you got to do then is center your crosshairs in the center mass of your target and spam those bursts out while you're aiming down sights, and most of those rounds will hit that on target. That is if it's a stationary target. If not, you're a bit out of luck. Now guys, I'm a bit of a shall we say a team player when it comes to doing all these kinds of videos. And no matter what it is that I'm doing, or even if I'm doing a review for any weapon or a pistol, if there is any way I can get the advantage for our team on the field, I will go ahead and do that. So for example, you guys will see I jump into quite a few vehicles, and you know, that's to be understood. You know, it's Gull Mode Railroad, Gull Mode Railway. It's a huge map. You gotta get into a vehicle at some point or another just to get around. Otherwise, all you guys would be seeing is me running around on foot. I never would get anywhere, I never get anything done, and never would get any kills. So what I did is I go ahead and hop into an LAV, and you guys gotta play this to your advantage anytime you're playing a team-based game, guys. It's not about you, it's about the team. It's not about how well you do, it's about how well you can do for the team. It's a group effort. Not a lot of people understand this, and that's why a lot of teams are basically very unbalanced, quote unquote, because you have some very dedicated team players on the other side who might have a, you know, like a 0.4 KD ratio, but they've got amazing scores because they're working to benefit the team. Whilst on the other side, you've got guys with, like, you know, like 5, 6 KDs, but you know, they're not doing much for the team whatsoever. But here I think I'm dragging on for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this viewer recommended loadout. I had a fun time attempting the challenge. I didn't do very well, so I hope you guys will forgive me for the lack of, you know, action on screen. I tried to do what I could with the weapon on such a large map. I did it over 2 matches. That way I wouldn't have, you know, too much experience with the setup. I'd rather give you like my first true honest to goodness opinions on the weapons and the setups you give me, because I mean that's pretty much as you know, as down to earth as you could get, you know, and as raw as you could get when it comes to opinions on something. So with that having been said, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, please go ahead and leave a thumbs up. If you guys didn't enjoy it, go ahead and leave a thumbs down. I prefer the thumbs up, and I'm sure you guys do as well. If you guys have any viewer recommended loadouts for me to try out, please don't forget to leave them in the comments section down below. I'm always eager to test out anything you guys throw at me, and I'm going to go ahead and bring you another quick brief tomorrow. So with that having been said, guys, I will catch you later. Peace out, fellas.